Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our case study webinar today on hydrogen from gray to green. So how do you move the existing users of hydrogen from gray hydrogen, which is very carbon intense, of course, to green hydrogen or anything lower carbon hydrogen, really. We're going to explore that today. And so that is going to be really an interesting webinar, I think. First of all, the usual antitrust statement reminder. I remind you guys to stay clear of any competitively sensitive topic and to, of course, do not disclose anything that could be competitively sensitive today. And similarly, when asking questions, please don't ask things that the presenters cannot answer. Thank you for your help with that. So I'm very excited to introduce the two speakers today. We have Jorge from Iberdrola, Frank from Shell, and myself and Loic will be facilitating this. Jorge, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sorry, thank you very much, Caroline. Jorge Palomar, I'm the head for global development of hydrogen, of green hydrogen in Iberdrola. I've been more than 22 years working in Iberdrola in different positions, from fuel trading, the operations, the trading floor, PPAs, and finally 2 years ago when the company decided to create a hydrogen division, I started with it, and well, now we are around 20 people on this hydrogen division and growing.
Great, thank you, Jorge, and welcome. Frank, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. No, my name is Frank Kieslich. I'm the business opportunity manager of the project Refine 2, talking today mainly about Refine 1, but I'm in this role since May of the last year. Before that, I had for 15 years now quite a couple of very different roles on the side, on the refinery side, as well as at the economic scheduling and trading interface, and lately in the business development, being responsible for Europe and Africa for our bitumen business. And yeah, as mentioned, since May last year, very happily on board on the hydrogen and energy transition journey.
Super, thank you, Frank. And we have Loic also helping to moderate the questions. Loic.
Hi, everybody. I'm a principal consultant at ERM, helping the WBCSD hydrogen work stream, and Caroline, especially the policy working group.
Thanks, Loic. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Caroline and I lead the hydrogen workstream at WBCSD. So welcome all. If you could please write alongside your name the company that you're working from. Some of you have done that already. Thank you. That would be great. Then it really helps people kind of know who's on the line. And also do feel free to write questions in the chat box as we go. But please do let the presenters go on with their presentations, and we'll have a significant Q&A at the end. So we will start the presentations with Jorge and the fertilizer sector. What does it take to move the fertilizer sector from gray hydrogen to green hydrogen, of course, to make green ammonia in the end? And then Frank will take us through the same thing in the refinery sector. What does it take to move a refinery from gray to green hydrogen? And we'll have a good 20 minutes of questions. And if we have time, even a little bit of feedback, I'll be asking you what you thought of this webinar and what else you might be interested in. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jorge. Jorge, I think you're going to share your slides, so I will stop sharing myself.
Okay. I think you can see my screen. Can you?
Fantastic.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, Caroline. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Just let me, sorry. Some technical issues. 1 second, please.
No problem at all, Jorge.
I think you can see my screen now. Can you?
Yes. Yeah. All good.
Yeah, there you go. So just very briefly to give you some detail about Iberdrola, who we are. Well, Iberdrola is a Spanish utility, original Spanish utility. I think by market cap, we are the biggest utility now in Europe. We have 58 gigawatt installed all around the world, and 38 gigawatt of them are renewables. That's the key point. Iberdrola is from when it was created a renewable energy company. 81% of our own installed capacity is emissions free. The company was born in Spain, but is a big one in the US, Brazil, Mexico, UK, through Scottish Power, and also in the Pacific, in Australia and Indonesia and some other countries, Japan, Taiwan, and 35 million clients all around the world, and I'm employing 40,000 people. Just want to show you this growth of renewables. We have now 38 gigawatt installed of renewables, and we have an investment plan of 75 billion euros to grow to 60 gigawatt installed by 2025. And 95% of this power is already done, assured. So in 2 years' time, the company, or 3 years' time, the company will have 60 gigawatt of renewables. So there is a lot of additional new energy coming in the following years in many different countries, in Spain, in US, in Brazil, in Netherlands, in Germany, in UK, in Mexico, and then in some other countries, in Italy. So quite a lot of new renewable coming in the following years. So as I was saying, Iberdrola anticipated the transition. 20 years ago, the company made the decision that want to be a renewable company. And this is what we are right now, a global renewable leader. We think that decarbonizing the electrical sector was key. And this is what we have been doing. Of course, it is necessary to have a renewable energy portfolio in the system, but at the same time, you need the smart networks and energy storage to make an efficient integration of renewable in any system in the world. But we thought that apart from making green the electrical system in any country, it was necessary to give a following step, trying to decarbonize the final uses of energy. So this is what we started some years ago with the green mobility, with the green heat, offering PPAs to our clients and trying to decarbonize all the energy uses that our clients have. And 2 years ago, the company decided that hydrogen was a perfect ally to electrification. So that is why the company decided to commit on green hydrogen and create a business direction that has made a lot of things in these 2 years, I have to say. And in two of these things has been two plants that we have built in the last year, and that one is running and the other is about to run in the near future. The company made a strategic decision to be on green hydrogen. It was an ambitious decision. We want to install 3.4 gigawatt of electrolyzers from now till 2030. And we have an intermediate objective of 500 megawatts by 2025 with a lot of investment, 9 billion euros investment, and 18 terawatt hours of new renewables associated with this green hydrogen. We have some real projects already. I mean, the company decided to make this ambitious strategy, but at the same time, we decided that this has to be firm. So we have to work hard on all the value chain. And so in the last 2 years, of course, we have been developing the renewable energy and the PPA schemes that we need for that we need for assuring that the energy that we will feed the electrolyzer is green and it's additionally green. But also we have been developing all the value chain and with a lot of partnership with very important companies. We signed a very important partnership with Cummins. Cummins is building their electrolyzer factory in Spain, very close to Madrid, and we have an agreement with them. They will build this plant, but they have already started building the factory that will build 500 megawatts of electrolyzer from 2024. That is key for us to guarantee that we will have the electrolyzer we will need for our ambition. We have signed some other very interesting agreements with companies like CAF, which is a train manufacturer in Spain, a global manufacturer. They also are the owners of Solaris, that are selling the buses of green hydrogen, and many other for compressors, for storage, a lot of people on the value chain, and at the same time, companies, first level companies that are consumers of gray hydrogen and that want to turn into green hydrogen. This is, as an example, Fertiberia, and this is a project I'm going to talk about. It's the biggest fertilizer company in Spain, with more than 9 sites, 2 of them consuming gray hydrogen. And also we have signed an agreement with BP, and we are working on a project in their refinery in Castellón, in the east of Spain. Also Porcelanosa, which is an important ceramic manufacturer in Spain, and they want to try to decarbonize and substitute some natural gas with green hydrogen. The H2 Green Steel, which is a really interesting project we are developing for green steel. And also Foresa, where we are developing a green methanol project also in Spain. TMB, which is the company of transports in Barcelona, we have built an installation for them, and some other companies. These are the 2 plants we have built in this last year and a half. They are very different. The first one, the plant in Barcelona, is a commercial plant for the buses of the city. They have decided to go to 60 buses of green hydrogen, so they make a tender, and we won the tender, and we have built this installation that is an HRS, but is prepared for fleets. 2.5 megawatt of capacity, and this is already charging buses. And then our plant, which is the biggest plant in Europe, 20 megawatt, which is an industrial plant, and this is connected directly to Fertiberia, one of the 2 plants of Fertiberia that are consuming gray hydrogen, which is the plant in Puerto Llano. And this 20 megawatt, which is the biggest in Europe, is just a small percentage of what they need. And what we start building our hydrogen adventure with Fertiberia. With Fertiberia, we signed an agreement around 1.5 years ago to substitute 100% of the gray hydrogen they are consuming for producing ammonia for green hydrogen. And so we started with this 20 megawatt plant that is already built and is about to run, waiting for the direct line that connect the photovoltaic plant to be on operation. But this is just the first phase. A second phase will be in Palos, in Huelva, in the south of Spain, in an industrial petrochemical area with an industrial port that will move to 230 megawatts. Then we will come back to Puerto Llano to make the second phase in Puerto Llano, another 200 megawatts, and then back to Palos, because they stop the plants every 2 years. And then in Palos to go to 370 megawatts. So the total power that is on this alliance that we create with Fertiberia is at 100 megawatts. With this ambition, all the ammonia produced in Spain will be 100% green ammonia. And if we run the capacity of the electrolyzers to the maximum, we will have quite a lot of additional capacity to be sold, especially in Palos, in Huelva, where we will be able to export green ammonia from the very beginning, because they are already exporting ammonia on this port. So this port is an ammonia port, and it will turn into green ammonia port the moment we build the first phase of Palos that is ongoing. This plant moves from last year to 2027, and as I was saying, that's the opportunity is a kind of country project to make our country the first one having 100% of green ammonia production, and with capacity for exporting green ammonia directly from a port that is already prepared to do it. Well, that's the 3D image of the plant. I mean, now I will show you the picture, but well, just to show you how it is, we have the electrical building. This plant is directly connected to one photovoltaic plant that we have, which is 100 megawatts, which is very close to the hydrogen plant. And then we have the electrolyzer. The electrolyzer is NEL technology, some storage to be sure that we comply with the requirements of Fertiberia, and also the oxygen that can maybe used on the process of the fertilizer, not on this phase, but afterwards, and the compressors. And I mean the installation is not very complex. What is complex is the scale. Well, that's the electrolyzer configuration, which we have this 16 stacks producing inside this building, the electrolyzer building, where we are producing on a stable base the hydrogen that will be directly sent to the Fertiberia plant for producing the green ammonia and substituting part of the gray hydrogen they are producing with natural gas. This is the scheme. As I was saying, we have a photovoltaic plant, 100 megawatts. We are just using 20 now, but the cable is prepared to export everything to the site of Fertiberia, so we can make this project grow easily, being fed from this photovoltaic. As you know, the advantage in Spain with the photovoltaic is that we have more than 2,000 hours equivalent. So this is an important use for the photovoltaic, but in any case, the plant will be also connected to the network, and we have a renewable PPA from a Iberdrola portfolio in Spain, assuring that the electrolyzer will be always consuming the green the electricity from additional renewable energy or whatever the final requirement would be. And this is a picture of the plant. You see that this is exactly the same that I was showing on the 3D. And this is the electrolyzer building. These are the rectifiers. Inside, we have the stacks. These are the storage. When this picture was made in December, we have only 5. Now we have 14 of this storage. And that's the electrical building. And what you see behind is the Fertiberia plant for ammonium nitrate and for green ammonia. Some data, as I was saying, the objective of this plant is producing green fertilizers, and in Palos we will be more focused on green ammonia, but in Puerto Llano, inside in the middle of Spain, it makes more sense to go to green fertilizers. So we will be producing green ammonium nitrate, and we're working with some clients that are interested on more sustainable agriculture, so that can be ready to use these green fertilizers and maybe consider an extra premium for having this decarbonized product for their products. And the first phase will be operational this year with a capacity to produce up to 3 kilotons per year, and photovoltaic connected to 100 megawatts, and the second phase 230 in 2025. So the project is a reality. We are about to make an official inauguration, and And the plant is a real plant connected to a real process. And during this year, we will be producing green ammonia and green fertilizers in this site in the middle of Spain. So just to conclude, Iberdrola's ambition on hydrogen is not only based on Spain. These are the two first projects, but we are developing two real projects now in UK for mobility, and also have some other project interesting in Germany, in Australia, in US, and in Brazil, and some other countries, Portugal, Mexico, Italy, ongoing. But at the end, the company ambition is global, and we have more than 60 projects under development in 8 countries. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Jorge, and perfect timing. So thanks a lot for that. That was really interesting, and lots of questions already are coming in. We are now going to move to the second part of the presentation. Can someone confirm you can see the screen?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Frank, over to you. Tell us all about Refine in the Shell refinery in Germany.
Yes, thanks a lot again, Carolyn, for having me today. Yes, I want to talk a little bit about Refine 1, the 10 megawatt electrolyzer, and to my knowledge, at least at this stage, it's still the biggest electrolyzer, hydrogen, fully renewable green hydrogen electrolyzer in Europe. More projects to come, and Jorge did mention the ambition to have the biggest one in the second half of the year. A couple of other projects. It's really a head-to-head and neck-to-neck race. Yeah, please over to the next slide. Very briefly, a word of caution I'm asked to give. So anything I mention about future and prediction, a word of caution that this is unsure at this stage, as always, and also a little bit of definition what we do see as the net zero carbon footprint. But please over to the next slide. So compared to Iberdrola, Shell is coming from a completely different corner. If you look just in Germany on the overall carbon footprint, with the products being sold in the German market and the emissions our customers are causing with our products, Shell is somehow responsible for above or around 10% of the CO2 emissions in Germany. So our target for Shell in Germany is to reduce our carbon footprint by 30% by 2030, and doing that in very close cooperation with our customers on the private sector side as well as on the business side. Knowing that most of these emissions that can be contributed and allocated to products of Shell are in fact not emissions Shell is producing themselves, but customers by just using our products in the end. So we have the mobility side with biofuels, e-charging, also on the loops, on the hydrogen side, a nature-based solution. There is home energy that is playing a more and more important role, but also if you look on the industry sector side, namely transportation, heavy industry, chemicals, but also my former position was in the bitumen business, construction, and bitumen is also fields where further reduction of our carbon footprint in conjunction with our customers is an ongoing and quite ambitious journey we are on. Please, next slide. So what does it mean for a specific production site? And Refine 1 has been built on Shell's energy and chemicals park in Rhineland, very close to Cologne. It's a very significant and fundamental change that this site transformation journey is now taking. From former fully or more or less fully carbon-based and fossil sources-based crude oil and natural gas, now over to a very broad blend of different input streams like biomass, waste oil and gas, plastic waste, municipal solid waste, still a bit of crude oil, but also as one important income stream now in the near future, fully renewable green power, with also a completely different scale and variety of different products that we are intending to produce. This presentation will be mainly about the hydrogen ambition, but there's a couple of other projects going on at the same time that are targeting for biofuels, bio-LNG, sustainable aviation fuels, and some of them are building on value-added chains, going back to hydrogen and electricity and other products that are not directly fuels related, like lubes, bitumen, and also plastic. Next slide, please. So specifically around fully renewable green hydrogen. So our journey from renewable power to green hydrogen, it's all starting with different offshore wind and solar assets that are generating the power. One of the constraints and difficulties in Germany is that also the grid infrastructure needs to be developed on this fast-paced developing energy transition towards electrification, with Cologne site being in the midwest of Germany, a little bit far away from the coastline, where most of the renewable energy in the foreseeable future will be produced. It's quite also one transition that the grid infrastructure has to be developed in a similar time frame, similar pace. Power being brought to the refinery is converted by Refine 1 in an existing 10 megawatt electrolyzer, with the next stage being Refine 2, a planned and intended 100 megawatt electrolyzer. And then a couple of different projects are originating from that. I already alluded in the slide before to our ambition to also build a project on sustainable aviation fuels, power to liquid, and other green hydrogen supply to customers in the close vicinity, but also to develop a loading facility that enables mainly heavy transport hydrogen as a fuel. Next slide, please. So what is the journey, and what was the roadmap to success for a project like Refine 1? It all started with the FCH JU call for funding for a 10 megawatt electrolyzer project. That was in January 2017. And in July, out of only at that time only 5, you have to say 5 projects, Refine 1 was selected as the winning project. The project officially then kicked off in January 2018 with really the first construction work going on in Q2 2019. Cell stacks being developed and delivered by ITM in our case in 2020 Q2. Installation and starting to build really on site was then in Q3 2020. And the final part was then really delivering in the midst of Corona, with quite a couple of supply chain issues and problems coming from disruptions, supply chain disruptions in that time in Q1 2022. And then in May to July, loop checks, final commissioning and startup. And please, then the next slide. Sorry, no, there's one in between. So just looking, no, please go ahead. I thought it would be already the slide on the inauguration. No, the key enabler for that project to make it a successful journey was really having the right team together and building on specific knowledge, experience, and the right partners to be on board. So the whole project was coordinated as part of the funding of the project between SINTEF and Shell in Germany. We had then, for the demonstration of this electrolyzer project, we had ITM power with the core and the heart of the electrolyzer, namely the cell stacks and the balance of the plant being produced from ITM and developed from ITM. Shell with the on-site, but also our global expertise and knowledge and research and development we are doing in different sites all around the globe helped. And then in further elaboration and getting the right insights out of this whole project, we had SINTEF, ThinkStep, ITM Power again, and Element Energy, and all of that happened, as mentioned, being co-founded by the European Union Clean Hydrogen Partnership. That's the subsequent initiative following fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking. And all of that led in the end of the day to a quite quick and successful implemented project that, next slide please. Now the nice picture that I already thought one slide before. In July 2021, we had the inauguration of the electrolyzer and startup with quite some public attention. That was also, to some extent surprising how big the interest and the attention to this project was. Again, in the middle of Corona, so limited attendance on site, but the inauguration in July was definitely from the public rewarding, from a public experience, quite a rewarding final exercise for the project. Next slide, please. So what are the key insights and the key learnings around this project and the first of its kind 10 megawatt electrolyzer? And if you look into press and media and all the announcement, you still have to keep in mind what I mentioned. This is for the time being still, as I see it, or as if I'm right in my perception, still biggest electrolyzer in Europe. So what was the success and what are the learnings of a journey of this nature? So first of all, given the competitiveness of fully renewable green power and green hydrogen at this stage, you need definitely for projects of this nature clear regulatory environment, rules and regulation that gives you the necessary certainty of law and also the right boundary conditions to develop a project of this nature. And definitely the business case and the boundary conditions for Refine 1 were completely different than the ones we are currently facing with Refine 2. But I think still this is definitely something that is of vital importance. Not to underestimate the challenge of upscaling the technology. And if you look on the steps being taken here, it's on one hand a pure scaling exercise we are doing. The cells and the stacks are getting bigger, but at the same time it's also numbering up. So if you compare Refine 1 with Refine 2, it's a combination of scaling up the cell stack size, but also then the sheer number of units being combined in one. It's something where also breaking ground innovation is facing changes in the industry standards, in internal standards between ITM, between Shell, that needs to be brought together. So quite a lot of alignment how these new kind of projects fit into the existing environment and industry standards and company internal standards. Just a very simple example for a petrochemical company, the legacy that Shell has. It's quite unusual to have pipes and fittings being polymer based, and this is one of the big news and surprises now for our engineers looking on units of this nature, where design is taking sometimes completely different pathways than what we've seen in petrochemical industry until now. And this is coming with also some mind shift changes that need to happen in the heads of people in certain disciplines and departments. It's definitely the high integration in this cross-functional team and a very intense management of the interfaces that enabled the success in that short time frame, given all the difficulties with Corona at the same time. So this real hard-minded one team approach was definitely one of the dimensions for creating and enabling the success that we have seen. And perhaps one last concluding remark from my side. Yes, be ambitious, be bold, but also keep in mind this is quite a challenging journey we are currently on, and agree with your team and with your management always on a realistic schedule, including enough contingencies, because there's so much unknown, so much unforeseen, just small aspects that become massive and huge once you get into bigger scale. So don't underestimate the challenges that come with the upscaling and with the numbering up that you face on your journey. If I'm not mistaken, this was my last slide. So I was even, I think, a little bit quicker than anticipated. That leaves even more room for question and answers at this stage. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Frank. And so great to see this race for the biggest electrolyzer in Europe and possibly in the world even. Fantastic. All right, let's move on to our Q&A section. I've seen a lot of questions coming in already. Loic, what do we start with?
Yes, we have question regarding how to scale up, to come from 1 megawatt to 10 or to 10 to 10 to 100 megawatt. What well as the main changes in scaling up, like the megawatt hours?
I think we can ask that question to both of our presenters, right? So Frank, challenges from 10 to 100, and Jorge, challenges from 20 to up to 800.
I think the biggest challenge that we currently see is this mental model between scaling up and numbering up. So I think that's the decision that the producers and technology developers have to answer for themselves. So I think value can be in higher numbers, and value can be also in standardization and getting to one design. I think what makes the biggest step for us is at this stage really the grid connection. So 10 megawatt is still something that most likely can be well accommodated by existing power grids. If once in a sudden by a trip 100 megawatt of power just trip from the power grid, that will have a significant impact. So I think this grid integration is vital part also of the investigation and the cooperation that we're doing on the 100 megawatt.
Yeah, well, in relation with our project and considering what it is done in Spain, we don't have so an important challenge with the grid. The grid in Spain is wider than what is necessary now, and is prepared for integrating renewables. So a grid is not a big challenge. The biggest challenge comes from the gap between the gray hydrogen and the green hydrogen. So the subsidies schemes that are going to appear, and the IPCEI project well, the IPCEI stamp, and how this will be managed by the each country in the European Union, the intensity of these subsidies and how they are going to be considered, if it is CAPEX, OPEX, or whatever the scheme is going to be. This is key for this to succeed. I mean, to go to a big scale. Of course, at the same time, there would be some necessary regulatory development. I mean, not all the regulation is clear, and we mentioned it. We even don't know exactly what green hydrogen is going to be, and there is a lot to be done regulatory in each country. So I think the regulation is also an important point that I think most of the countries are working on, and also I think that considering the way to reduce this gap, subsidy scheme can be a tool. Also, the regulation will be another one. And I think that also we have to create green markets for green products. I mean, there should be someone accepting that the non-emissions product has a bigger value than the product created with emissions, with more footprint. So I think these three are the challenges that need to be covered to go to big scale projects.
Fantastic. And Jorge, if I can follow on from that. So you mentioned the biggest issue for you is this cost gap between gray and green. There's been lots of discussions about that lately, especially with the increase in the price of gas, and people saying that we are getting really close, if not on a par now between gray and green hydrogen. I don't know to what extent you're able to share that, but how close are we to closing that gap? And then maybe also same question for Frank.
Well, in a spot basis, we are very close. That's correct. But I mean, nobody is thinking that this is going to be sustained in time, these prices of gas. So even if gas prices goes to a much higher level than the 20 something that was at the beginning of the crisis, there would be an important gap. So I think that the gap will be there. I mean, we are talking about new project, important investment, long amortization process, a lot of years to amortize these big investments. So I think that the gap will be there. After this problem, the structural difference will be there. So yeah, I think that the gap maybe will be lower than when we were talking about 2 years ago, but the gap will be there. That's our view.
Thanks, Jorge. Frank, same question to you.
Yeah, perhaps again a little bit of specific situation in Germany here, because the power prices are following quite closely also the gas prices. So from that perspective, I do not see this gap really closing as part of the actual development on gas prices. It's more or less, yeah, in a similar dimension, I would say.
Yeah, clear. Thanks, Frank. Loic, what's next?
Yeah, also, if you would like to stay around the economics and the business model, we had questions regarding the co-products and the capacity factor. So one question was about the capacity factor of the electrolyzers. Yeah, how many hours during the year? And other ones were about the market for oxygen and heat. If you have like any market, and maybe the question behind is what's the weight of these external revenues in the business model?
Yeah, well, that's great questions. First thing, the capacity that we have been considered is the one that make the gap smaller. So as our plant is directly connected to a photovoltaic, we are planning to run the plant only with a photovoltaic plus the hours where the price is lower, an amount of hours. So, I mean, when we create the project, the idea was around a capacity factor around 50%. But I have to say that this is not a fixed reality. I mean, we have created this is a big project, but at the end it's a pilot project. And another question that was launched, this means around 10% of the consumption of the fertilizer plant. So it's not a big one. So we are making the plant very flexible. So it can give a stable supply to the fertilizer plant with 50% capacity, but we can move to 100% if there is if Fertiberia or the market or the fertilizer market is about to pay this the green hydrogen price. So the plant was designed to work only in some hours where the price is lower and in the hours where the sun is shining, but it can change. And related to the oxygen and the heat, of course, these are two other inputs that may reduce this gap. And the oxygen can be used in the fertilizer plant on the acid in the nitric acid process, and also the heat can be used also on the plant, and also can be used for heating. So yes, we are trying to find some other uses that will create additional income and will reduce the gap. So yes, the two options are being studied in depth.
Yeah, from my perspective, the question about full load hours and capacity factors is again linked to my first or second bullet on the learning slide that I shared. It's all about the legislation. So heavily depending on how legislation comes out, it defines the amount of hours that you can produce with your electrolyzers falling under, for example, the RED II scheme. Also, again, what Jorge is saying, that we have also this price factor. If you don't produce fully renewable green hydrogen, the question is power cheap enough to allow perhaps also gray hydrogen at the same time if power prices are pretty low. So it's very heavily depending on the legal environment. On the other use cases, compared to Refine 1, where oxygen is not used, Refine 2 is intending to make use of the oxygen. On site, we have different applications where oxygen today is already used and is coming from a grid, from a pipeline network that we have in the area. So it would replace existing oxygen. On the other side, heat is another co-product you see here on, or you've seen on the photo of Refine 2 on the air coolers. So there is the intention to investigate further whether we can make use of that waste heat and upgrade it to a useful use case, but there's nothing yet identified at this stage of the project that's most likely an outcome of all the work to be done.
Thanks very much. We had a question also related to the choice of PEM electrolyzers and what was the main reasons for this choice, and if you have also any plan to explore even like a new generation of electrolyzers.
Well, from our side, we decided to go to PEM, well, considering this plant as a pilot plant, a huge pilot plant. So we want to have the maximum flexibility possible in order to take advantage of the prices or what we were saying, no, because we didn't know how the integration will be done. We think it's going to be very easy, but we don't know. So at the end, the plant has some storage. The plant has a PEM which is more flexible compared to alkaline. But this has this is a decision for this pilot plant. But of course, for biggest phases, if alkaline much better, we will go to alkaline. So I mean, both technologies are on our portfolio.
A little bit a similar story on our side, I would say. Shell is investigating all existing technologies that are in the market. So there is no absolute preference for one or the other. In this case, it was about the parties that found together in order to jointly apply for this 10 megawatt electrolyzer call. And in that sense, a little bit, REFHYNE 2 is just the continuation of this quite successful party and consortium for the next scale. But yes, there's definitely good reasons to go for one or the other technology. And it's not a firm paradigm that Shell would only go for one or the other one.
Maybe another question regarding the policies, like the policy instruments, which according to you could help the most to transition from gray to green in this fertilizer industry or for a refinery. Also, maybe taking into account that for a refinery, you have like different volumes of H2 and different H2 supply patterns. Like a part of the H2 is produced on site or it could be purchased externally. How like the different policies and policy instruments could impact the business case for switching from gray to green.
So policy instruments on our side are definitely a very big driver. Just looking on the actual power price levels and even with the increased natural gas prices, fully renewable green hydrogen replacing gray hydrogen in a refinery environment currently in Germany is a difficult business case, and will take one or the other mechanism to drive this change if the legislation environment is not significantly supporting that transition, in a sense, either to put more stress and strain on the CO2 footprint, or to support by other mechanisms the use case for fully renewable green hydrogen. It will be difficult to implement that. And it's again linking back to my comment, we need definitely clarity on this legislative environment and the support needed in order to make economics for fully renewable green hydrogen break even, at least with gray hydrogen. Otherwise, this whole energy transition will be quite a difficult journey.
Any other answer from Iberdrola?
Well, it's more or less the same. I think I said it before. The business case is not easy, and our countries needs to understand that, as Frank was saying, we need a very clear regulatory scheme that will create differences in between green and gray products, and also we need subsidies scheme implementation that will allow real projects to happen. And I mean, we have to work together with the administration to let them understand what is behind, because it's not a very, I mean, we have to make it sustainable. And this is not basing everything on the subsidies. No, of course. I think the price of green hydrogen will be reducing. Regulatory schemes should be promote green products, and some subsidy scheme will be necessary at the beginning of this to happen. But on the long run, we think that this can be done on a sustainable way without subsidies. But we need to implement the schemes that will make it work, because the business case is not working easily. And that's the reality.
Thanks very much for your answer. So if I come back to like some of the questions we had at the beginning, so we had question regarding safety of operation, and did you experience any difficulties regarding safety? Other question regarding venting and flaring, was it planned, and did you need any permitting or special permitting? So a question regarding safety and permitting.
Yeah, perhaps can I start here? So safety is definitely one of the big concerns and big topics that are quite intensively investigated, discussed, and assessed in the whole project development process. Not only in this project, also in the other electrolyzer projects that we are currently developing. So from that perspective, a lot of time and effort goes exactly into that topic. In venting, there is multiple possibilities depending on the quantities we are speaking about, but flare connection is one of the options, and that's a beauty and the advantage of an existing refinery site, and that you can easily tie in a vent stream into the flare system of a refinery. Explosion risk is something, especially for unforeseen events, namely a crossover of hydrogen on the oxygen side. That's one of the biggest topics being quite intensively investigated and assessed, and finding the right measures to avoid that scenario and make the unit safe to operate is definitely one of the most important technical challenges we are facing at this stage.
Well, not much to add. I mean, we are building. Our plants are inside another industrial plant with all the safety controls, and it's inside a plant that is already generating and consuming hydrogen with a different technology, but the same. So security for Iberdrola is priority number one. We have built 2 plants. We have built with not one safety measure, but 2 and 3. Permitting may take some time, but fortunately, being inside a plant that is already been working with hydrogen for many years, has been something that can be easily controlled. But of course, all the eyes has to be put on that.
And perhaps just two comments. I mean, venting. If you think about the holdup of Refine 1, I think it's just in the lower double-digit kilograms that hydrogen is in this unit. It's not a standard operation to vent. So from that perspective, if you can vent to a safe location, safety-wise, that would be okay. The biggest concerns on our sides are 2 scenarios on the safety side. The one is the small leak rate that you might have from the hydrogen to the oxygen side, especially if your unit is not operational. So that means the fresh makeup gas coming from the electrolysis is missing, and you accumulate gas. So this is one known phenomenon that you find also in literature. The second big scenario that has to be kept in mind is, and there's some evidence also in public available literature, is that you have a catastrophic failure of the membrane, and how to safeguard and mitigate the effects from that one. So these are the 2 biggest things that we currently do consider and try to mitigate to the best possible extent in our safety concepts that we do apply.
Thanks very much. I think so. I think
let's take one more question, because we still have lots of people on the line and the conversation is really good. In the meantime, while Loic, you asked the question and our presenters answer, I've put up the Menti that we would welcome your feedback on the webinar. So if you could please flash that QR code or go to menti.com and enter this code here, 8503. 8034. And while you guys do that, I will let Loic ask the last question.
Well, we still have like 2-3 remaining questions. So yeah, maybe ask them. I'll let you choosing the one you'd like to answer. So there is one regarding the H2 storage and how it compared to the size of the plant, how to size exactly the storage and at which pressure it's stored. And we also had a question regarding the purity and the requirements of H2 for use in ammonia fertilizer production plant. And the last one regarding the footprint of the H2 produced, and to know if, especially for Iberdrola, if considering that's produce ultimately fertilizer, which can have also potentially a negative impact. Do you consider in like a full LCA of the H2, and how do you consider like the impact of H2 for producing a fertilizer? Three different questions.
I didn't get the last one. Sorry. Well, I will answer the first two, and then, if you don't mind repeating, for the storage that we have, we make a decision, and as I was saying, this is a pilot plant, and we decided that we will have nearly 1 day storage capacity, and so this is well, to have capacity to make the electrolyzer run in the hours we think that the price will be better, in order to reduce the gap and produce the cheapest green hydrogen possible. And we made the numbers, and it was better to invest on CapEx and reduce on OpEx. And in relation with the purity is better than the one produced by SMR. So it's 99.998, I think, %. And that's better than what they are getting right now from the SMR process. And the last one I didn't get it, sorry.
Anyway, I think we're running out of time. So I don't know if Frank, you'd like to pick up one or two questions also to answer.
I think most of the questions were related more to the Iberdrola side. So storage we are not intending at this stage, and purity for us the most demanding purity requirement comes from the PEM fuel cell requirements. So that's a standard that we have to meet, and yeah. Nothing
Excellent. Excellent, guys. Well, I would like to thank you both for your time. This was a fantastic way to learn more about, what does it take in practice to go from gray to green. Clearly very exciting to see some of that happening today. I mean, both electrolyzers are in production today. So, I think sometimes we are afraid of the challenges ahead, but it's good to see that it is happening, and with plans for more. So that's really exciting. And yeah, thanks again for your time today. There'll be more webinars like this one in the future. We don't have dates yet, but we're looking at one from the green hydrogen supply chain, probably a project on the best of blue hydrogen as well, and another one in the steel sector, and more to come. If you guys have got ideas, please do let us know. Thank you very much again, Frank, Jorge, Loic, for moderating the questions, and all of you for joining in. We'll see you soon in one of our other webinars. And if you have any feedback, do feel free to drop me a line on the side. Thanks very much, guys, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.